What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more The Cure. And we're returning to Pornography 1982 for the final and title track. So, it's a word that is loaded or very much depends on the psychological, cultural, and I suppose, at least in the eyes of some, moral perception of the observer, meaning what is pornography to one person is not to another. Fundamentally, it refers to images, concepts, or other media which relates to the prurient interest, that which makes you feel sexual or sensual, and thus, again, what is pornographic to one person is not necessarily to another. It is something that, if you're applying that label, you are perhaps suggesting it is, what's the right word, superficial or not appropriate to a more, let's say, romantic understanding of sex or sexuality. Now, of course, what one thinks about that relates to any number of factors relating to culture, psychology, religion, and or tradition. So again, depending on where you are or what cultural subgrouping you're part of, the label may be more or less applied or more appropriate or less appropriate. But it relates, of course, to judgment as well. If you're saying, again, something is pornographic, you're saying that perhaps it is, there's a word I'm searching for here, not wasteful, but you're saying it is superfluous to the emotions that sex might otherwise be connected to. It's divorced or disconnected from any emotional base of a more traditional or sentimental quality. So I do wonder, given The Cure's lyrics as I've heard them and their not only seemingly autobiographical conceptual bent, but a darker flavor of that autobiographical understanding, given what I've heard about this period in particular for Robert's life, I wonder whether this could be a label that is applied from the exterior, or perhaps an approach to pornography that is non-standard, or an understanding of it that is itself outside the norm or disconnected from traditional notions of what the word means. So I'll just have to see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is The Cure, the track is Pornography, and it's from their 1982 album of the same name, though I think. Yeah, I see what I did here. Hold on. It's supposed to be queued up, but it is in fact not. Okay, and away we go. Turn Me On, Deadman. Wow. So, an excursion in dissonance and discordance and cacophony, a real life meets mental environment in a dark overall atmosphere synthesis. It feels like, number one, I wondered whether the chatter, the dissonance, and the divergent statements, lives, and attitudes of people, if like that was being represented as pornography relative to the narrator, which like 2 or 3 minutes into the tune, I wondered like, is this all an experimental sort of art piece? Like not going to get any lyrics at all. Now we eventually did, though. Even then, they were sort of in the distance, one voice among many, almost overwhelmed by or obscured by the cacophony of everything else that was happening. I did catch little tidbits, all of them sounding very intense and perhaps negative. The idea of it's too late, whatever possibility or opportunity is there, the time has passed and it cannot manifest or obtain anymore. Something about, and I think it was a conditional statement, like an if-then statement, but the second half of it was something like, I'll kill you. And then, what was the part at the end? Oh, I forget. There was like one more line at the end that he sort of repeated, and of course now I'm blanking on, but it also sounded like a pessimistic or cynical view or a negative attitude, like maybe things ending. So yeah, it feels like all of it is a dystopian, unpleasant, or dissociated, maybe that's the best word, perception and expression and all of the noise. I mean, it almost was like noise art a little bit in terms of these recorded voices, again, a cacophony of people talking. I kept waiting to hear like maybe they might be like looped or like reversed voices from some pornography, but it didn't really sound like that. But it felt like there was so much going on around it, and it was all distracting, it was all chaotic, it was all darkly unpleasant, though I'll put that in scare quotes, because I enjoyed the bizarre excursion that the track was. Gosh, I wish I could remember that last line, or the line that I think was repeated a few times near the end of the tune. There's like a specific point, but then when my brain goes back and tries to think about other elements, it evaporated for the time being. But yeah, a really fitting in a way tune to end the album on, in that it has all the darkness and the intensity of the tunes that came before it, but with less clarity, less singularity. It felt all over the place, including in the narrator's mind. And again, if you're saying anything about killing someone, of course that could be figurative, but it also feels like there's an uncomfortability, a desire, or at least a possibility, if not a penchant, for lashing out, for striking down, maybe in retribution, maybe in a I want to destroy something beautiful because I feel like the situation I'm in is not conducive to calm, or it's never been in my favor to begin with. So it feels all very dark and heavy. And, now I'm going back to the general definition. I'm thinking of, I think it was like a U.S. congressman, but he was like, oh, well, I can't define pornography. I can't say what it is, but when I know it, I'll see it. Or when I see it, I'll know it, sorry. And I feel like the song is sort of like, I don't know what's happening, but when I heard it, I knew what it was, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, maybe there's a connection there. But just a really crazy art piece to end the album on, and fitting in terms of how dark and discordant it was. And given what I've heard about Robert's situation at this point in his life, maybe even the band dynamic at this point, it feels incredibly appropriate and fitting. So yeah, a crazy album. In the moment, I forget if there's any non-album singles in the second folder, the non-album tracks or the bonus material for the deluxe edition. Thank you again to Philip for providing this and many other catalogs. But yeah, we'll figure that out, and then either we'll be on to the next album. I know people were saying generally, or at least I feel like the majority opinion was go through the proper albums, but yeah, if there's any crucial or unmissable non-album singles, we'll do that, and then we'll go on to the next album. So looking forward to whatever's next. Let me know what you think of this, and we'll see you then. Peace.